It's 8:45 a.m. A ship just caught fire in your harbor, and you're walking closer for a better look. Bad idea. That ship is packed with 3,000 tons of explosives. In 20 minutes, it will erase everything around you. A shockwave flattening 2 square kilometers, windows shattering 60 kilometers away, a tsunami rolling over the shore, and a half-ton anchor flying 3 kilometers through the air. This was Halifax, 1917. Almost no one who watched had time to escape. 2,000 years ago, Roman engineers poured a breakwater into the Bay of Naples. Volcanic ash, lime, seawater, chunks of lava. The empire that built it collapsed. Kingdoms rose and fell above the waves. The concrete stayed and quietly changed. Seawater crept through its pores, dissolved the ash, and grew new crystals into every gap. In 2017, scientists drilled into it and realized the truth. This ruin isn't decaying. It has been rebuilding itself for 20 centuries. A patient arrives with a gunshot wound to the leg. There's no exit wound, so the bullet must still be in there. But the X-ray of the leg is clean. Nothing. So they scan higher, and they find it sitting inside the heart. The bullet never stopped moving. It slipped into a vein, and the bloodstream carried it like a boat down a river all the way to the chest. Every main battle tank on Earth shares the same weakness. It's not a design mistake. Engineers know about it, and they leave it in on purpose. Look at a tank from the front, and you're staring at some of the thickest armor ever built. Layered steel and composite, nearly impossible to punch through. But armor is weight, and weight is the enemy. So they had to choose where to spend it, and there's one surface they simply couldn't afford to protect. In August 1986, villagers in Cameroon woke to find their neighbors gone. No fire, no flood, no damage to a single building. Crops stood untouched. Even the insects were dead. Whatever killed 1,700 people had left the walls standing and the roofs on. The answer wasn't in the villages at all. It was in the lake up the valley, which had been quietly filling with something for decades and released it all in one night. Taiwan sits on a fault line and gets hit by typhoons every year. So when the strongest earthquake in 25 years struck, everyone expected the tallest tower in the country to move. It barely did. The reason isn't in the foundations, or the steel frame, or the glass. It's hanging in a shaft near the top of the building, a golden sphere the size of a house, and it's the only one in the world you can walk up and look at. In 480 BC, soldiers of the largest empire on Earth waded into a strait and began whipping the water. 300 lashes, counted out. Then they threw a pair of iron shackles into the sea. These weren't madmen. They were the most disciplined army of the ancient world, following a direct order from their king. To understand why, you have to know what the sea had just done to him, and whether the story is even true. There's a machine out there you can still talk to. But if you say good morning on Monday, the answer arrives Wednesday. It's not a delay in the equipment. It's the distance. This November, that gap hits a number no human object has ever reached. 1 full light day, 24 hours at the speed of light each way. And the strangest part is what's keeping it talking, a power source that's been dying since 1977. Scientists strapped tiny loggers to a group of swifts and waited 2 years to get them back. When they read the data, 3 of the birds had a gap that made no sense. 10 months with no landing recorded. Not one. They ate in the air, molted in the air, crossed the Sahara twice in the air, which leaves the question nobody has fully answered. When exactly does a bird like that sleep? Drill into the floor of the Mediterranean and you hit something that shouldn't be there. Salt. Not a thin crust. Layers over a kilometer thick. The kind you only get when a sea evaporates completely. Which means this sea was once a desert basin, kilometers below the level of the ocean next door. It stayed that way for hundreds of thousands of years. Then something let the Atlantic back in. A man checks into a Chicago hotel in 1861. Over the next few days, he notices the front steps getting a little steeper each morning. He assumes he's tired. When he checks out, the windows he used to look through at eye level are now above his head. Nobody told him. Beneath the floor, 500 men were turning thousands of jack screws, lifting the entire six-story building into the air. And the hotel never closed. Gaudi didn't want to draw his church, so he built a shed next to the site, fixed the floor plan to the ceiling, and hung strings down from every point where a column would stand. On each string, he tied little bags of lead shot, one for every load the building would carry. Then he let go. Gravity did the rest, and when he photographed the result and turned the picture upside down, he was looking at his church. Everyone photographs the view from the top of Everest. Almost nobody looks down at what they're standing on. The rock at the summit is limestone, and limestone forms underwater. Break a piece open and you find shells, trilobites, sea lilies, tiny crustaceans. Samples taken 6 meters below the summit are full of them. The highest point on Earth is made of an ancient seabed, and something carried it 5.5 miles into the sky.
You're inside a block of concrete, and a crack is opening above you. Seawater pours down. In a modern structure, this is the beginning of the end. Water reaches the steel bars inside, the steel rusts, the rust swells, and the concrete breaks itself apart. But this crack runs into a small white lump. The water dissolves it. Calcium floods the gap. Crystals grow out from both walls until they meet. 2 weeks later, nothing gets through. The damage repaired itself.